Welcome back to BNC, everyone. The budget fight on Capitol Hill is bringing a lot of black and brown issues up in our country to the forefront, not the least of which is funding for historically black colleges and universities. The latest version of President Biden's budget proposal has trimmed the amount allotted to HBCUs from $55 billion to about $30 billion. Now, that is not sitting well with some Democrats in the House and Senate, among them Georgia Senator Dr. Raphael Warnock and North Carolina Congresswoman Almond Adams. And with us to expand our horizons on this subject and tell us why money for the HBCUs is so important is Derek C. Gilmore. He is the Executive Vice President at Stillman College in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Thank you so much for being with us, Derek. Before we talk about the dollars, and there's a lot of them on the table there, tell us about the importance of having people like Senator Warnock and Congresswoman Adams on your side.
Well, it's actually critical to the work and the impact that HBCUs have across this nature, and the pathways that we create to STEM fields for minority representation across this country, as well as our impact on teacher education and other social and civic engagement and political engagement professionals that HBCUs serve and nurture throughout this country.
And Derek, when people hear, billions of dollars, that sounds like a lot of money, but having cuts does make an impact. What kind of difference would that kind of deduction make in the operation of Stillman and other HBCUs?
Well, when we're talking about the difference of 20 or 30 billion dollars, the impacts of that actually affects the infrastructure at our institutions. And let me give you a very detailed account of what that means for us. When we look at the National Science Foundation HERD survey of research expenditures across the academy, we're talking about $5.5 billion annually that are spent for colleges and universities. When we look at the top schools, the top 30 schools who actually receive funding from the federal government and based on their expenditures, we're talking about they account for actually 42% of all of those monies that are allocated and expended on research in this country. When we look at that rate of growth over the last 2 years alone, as reported by the HERD survey, we've seen right at a 12% increase for the top 50 institution, which include your University of Washington at Seattle and others. But when we look at HBCUs, we've actually seen a 3% retraction in the amount of research expenditure. Thusly, we don't have the funds are not allocated for investments in infrastructure and spaces on our campuses for students to facilitate research and gain that experiential learning experience that they need to prepare for graduate school and to address some of the pressing needs we have from a biochemical perspective
Derek,
in today's world.
Derek, I want you to clarify. So does the amount of reduction in money, would that affect existing services and personnel, or is it talking about things that are planned for the future, or both?
These would actually impact existing positions on our campus. As we know, through Title IV funds and Title III funds that are allocated through HBCUs, if there are reductions in the allocations of those funds for our school, it has an immediate impact on our current body of faculty and staff who provide services for our students in our community.
So Derek, tell us about Stillman in particular. What is your endowment compared to other HBCUs and other mainstream schools?
Based on our endowment, the institution, we are continuously seeking efforts to grow in our endowment and to engage philanthropists throughout this country.
Derek, my apologies. President Biden is about to speak. We'd like to go live now to hear the president speaking on his Build Back Better program.
And John, thank you for that introduction.